Hello everyone and welcome to Mountain Lake Journal. I'm Tom Hellick. This week, the skinny on fat. For decades, we've been told that fat has been the villain that's sabotaging our waistlines and is bad for our health. But now a growing number of health experts are challenging all that fat phobia. Nutritionists like Dr. Mark Hyman, who you may have seen here on PBS, are promoting the benefits of a diet that includes eggs, dairy, meats, and other higher fat foods. They say low-fat diets are a myth and often result in people eating unhealthy amounts of sugar and carbs. That's an argument the author of this book has been making for years.
There's a lot of energy in saturated fat.
Sally Fallon Morell is a writer and activist who touts the nutritional and health benefits of eating what she calls real food, rich in butter, dairy, and pasture-fed meat. At seminars like this one in the Adirondacks, participants are not only served up the virtue of traditional diets, but actually get to taste many of the recipes that come from Fallon Morell's cookbook. Chef Kathy Homeyer, who follows many of the same guidelines in preparing meals for her guests at the Lake Clear Lodge and Retreat, is writing her own cookbook with recipes that include local ingredients from the Adirondacks.
We've taken the traditional foods, but also done a lot of research into traditional foods in the Adirondacks. So we've divided the time periods into 5 eras, included Native Americans, which are very prominent actually on this area here. I've been told the pioneers and settlers, how they had their food. The Cure Cottage, which of course the whole area was developed around, they had a certain diet and was very heavy in dairy. And then the Grand Hotel, which came about with the lavish hotels, had a lot of farms bringing in the food and also food from away. And then our circle back around to farm to fork, which is, an event like this, traditional peoples would probably say, "What are you doing? This is what we've done all along." And now we're, hopefully back to that, and with people like the Weston A Foundation putting out information and research, we're coming back around and realizing the way we should eat food.
And with us now is a writer and activist who for years has been talking about how unhealthy low-fat diets are. Sally Fallon Morell, welcome. Nice of you to join us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are the president of the Weston A Foundation. For viewers who haven't heard about you folks, tell us a little bit about your organization and your views on nutrition.
Right. So we're named after a man named Weston A. Price, who studied the diets of healthy traditional peoples back in the 30s and 40s. And one of the things he found about these diets is they were rich in the very foods that we're tending to avoid today. So if these people had dairy cattle, they liked the butter and the cream. They ate eggs. Eggs were a sacred food for these people. And these diets were very high in vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin K, which are the vitamins that we get from animal fats. And if you are avoiding animal fats, you have a very hard time getting enough of these vitamins.
So he studied the diets of the people that lived in these developing countries.
Yes, yes.
And then did he come up with an overall nutrition plan or guide?
Yes, he actually worked with orphanages to improve their diet. He gave them butter, he gave them cream, he gave them cod liver oil, he gave them stews with fatty meat in the stews, and their health improved, and not only that, but their school performance improved.
Over the years, we've heard, though, that fats like that, butter, eggs, whole milk, have been
demonized.
Exactly, demonized.
And that's exactly why we set up this foundation. My co-author, Mary Enig, was a lipid expert, and she was appalled at the dietary advice coming out. She knew the research that showed us that children actually need cholesterol in their diet to develop normally. They need these fats, they need these vitamins. So she and I set up this organization, she and I and a few others, very interested and very concerned to provide accurate information about nutrition. And so we don't accept any money from the food industry or the government. We can kind of tell it like it is.
You mentioned you've written a couple of books and one with her, including a book that many consider to be one of the classics of the real food movement, Nourishing Traditions.
Yes,
the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and diet dictocrats.
Yes. yes.
Very interesting title. Who are diet dictocrats?
Well, these are the self-appointed members of the government and medical organizations who seem to be speaking in one voice, telling us that to be healthy we should go low fat. We should avoid animal fats and saturated fats and foods containing cholesterol. And this is just a big mistake. And the people who are paying the most for this mistake are the children, because children really need these nutrient-dense, rich diets. Traditional cultures had special foods for the pregnant women and the growing children, and these foods were the very foods we're told not to eat.
Are our nutrition guidelines changing, though? I mean, just within the past year, we've heard about taking the pyramid and basically flipping it upside down.
Well, they've gotten rid of the pyramid. There was so much criticism of the pyramid because it gave us the green light to eat all the carbs we wanted to eat, and people just ended up eating a lot of refined carbohydrates, and all of us know that this isn't good. So then they came up with the plate. But if you actually dig down and analyze that plate, there's even more carbs in that diet than there was in the pyramid. So the guidelines have not changed substantially, but what has changed is the realization that these are not good for us, and there's a big outcry that we need more science-based guidelines.
We've heard for so many years, low fat, low
Yes.
fat, low fat. Now it seems that we seem to be hearing carbs and especially sugars.
They are an evil, especially the refined carbs and refined sugars. We do need carbs in our diet. We don't endorse a no carb or a low carb diet. We need those carbs. They're in all traditional diets. But our first focus is on the fats, and that is to get off the industrial fats and oils and switch back to the fats that our ancestors used. So, you know, what we say is quite eyebrow raising. Use butter. Put butter on your food. Cook in animal fats. Lard is a very stable, healthy fat that traditional cultures use. Use the animal fats. Olive oil for your salad dressings. Use the fats and oils that were used thousands of years ago.
There are bad fats, trans fats.
Well, trans fats, and to the credit of the food industry, they have been more or less removed from the diet. But in a way, we've jumped from the frying pan to the fire, because they've gone back to the liquid oils, and these have their own dangers. In particular, they're highly carcinogenic. And this has been known for 30 or 40 years.
So is much of what we've been taught about nutrition wrong?
A lot of it's wrong, yes. I mean, it's good to say let's all eat whole foods and not eat processed foods. Okay, that's a good place to start. But we get into more of the details. So first of all, we say these animal fats are whole foods. You need them in your diet. Don't be afraid of them. Grains, grains is a big issue today, and many people say, well, grains are bad, we shouldn't eat grains.
They've cut them out because of concerns about gluten?
Gluten or their digestibility. But many, many traditional cultures ate grains, and they were perfectly healthy. But they had other ways of preparing the grains. They kind of fermented them. They soaked them. They were sour. They had these sour pancakes, sour bread, sourdough bread. So this is what we teach about grains. You can have grains. They just need to be prepared carefully.
And if you prepare them that way, what's the benefit? What does it do?
Well, then they're much more digestible. And as an example, research in Italy, they took people who were diagnosed celiac disease, so can't have grains, can't have gluten, and they gave them genuine sourdough bread, and they had no problem with the genuine sourdough bread. So when you sour these grains, it's like a pre-digestion, and your body doesn't have to work as hard. Another one of our big themes is old-fashioned broth, chicken broth, beef broth. Very important in the diet.
What are the benefits of raw milk? And it is controversial because there are those that the CDC and FDA and others are still concerned about the bacteria that can be found in raw milk.
Right. And for years it has been taught that pasteurization has been the greatest public health campaign that we ever had, and it got rid of all these infectious diseases. However, these infectious diseases were on the decline long before pasteurization came in. We know so much more about milk today than we knew 40 years ago. We now know that milk is loaded with components that help us absorb the nutrients, components that create the immune system, components that protect us against pathogens. And these components are destroyed by pasteurization. Now, we're not just telling people to go out and drink any old milk raw. Milk has to be produced in very clean conditions, And this is what we are advocating: raw milk from very clean cows, clean, healthy cows, clean conditions. And the beauty of what we have available today, we have technologies that allow testing on the farm. We have stainless steel. We know a lot more about herd health. We have the technology today to get clean raw milk to anyone who wants it. And unfortunately, we're using a kind of Rust Belt technology to just deaden the milk with pasteurization.
And at the same time, though, in many states, you really can't go and buy raw milk. You can't go down to the farmer's market in many places and buy raw milk. You can go to a farmer and buy it directly. But for many people, it's not convenient to buy raw milk.
Right. It's a patchwork because raw milk is regulated on the state level. In 10 states, you can go to a store and buy raw milk. In another 6 states, you can buy raw milk as pet milk. In some states, you can join what's called a herd share or a cow share and get your milk that way.
Much like the CSAs we
right,
see
yeah, and others,
gaining popularity in northern New York.
Other states, you go to the farm. We have been working tirelessly to liberalize all these laws. When we started, you could only sell or provide raw milk in 27 states. We're up to 48 now, so our goal is all 50 states. And it's an idea that was first greeted with kind of shock, you know. Now it's being accepted that yes, there is benefit in raw milk and that we can do it safely.
Are there still hurdles, though? We know in Vermont for a few years now there's been a proposal to at least sell it at farmers markets, to allow it there, but they haven't gotten to that point. So are there still hurdles to trying to get raw milk more readily available?
Yes, and in every state, you know, things could be liberalized more, and that's what we are working on. That's one of our big pushes and campaigns in the Weston A. Price Foundation.